Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I am your host, Dennis Patholkis, and this is the penultimate episode of Legion, Season 3, Episode 7, Chapter 26. We only have one more to go after this, which is very, very disappointing. But at the same time, uh, we're just getting some really good stuff out of this. Welcome, everybody. And let me take care of some business first before we get into this thing here. If you like what you see here, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. If you don't like what you see, you can hit the dislike button. I just ask you go down in the comment section, tell me what it is you don't like, give me some constructive criticism. Also, if you want to know when I'm be on live again next, you can hit the little bell down there. If you hit the bell before, don't hit it again. It will unclick it. You can go into the bell settings and get as many or as little notifications as you want. You may or may not get notified by YouTube when I'm on because that's just the way YouTube works sometimes. I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram, I also have a Patreon page, but the Patreon page does not have any tier set up as of yet. Also, if you want to see where my schedule is, it's up on suspendedfanimation.com. I have my entire schedule up there, and it's also mirrored on my Facebook page as well. There we go. And then also next week during the final episode, remember there is a contest for the Legion pin. That is prize number 1. And that is prize number 2. There we go. Only open to US residents, by the way. Sorry, I just can't afford the high international rates sending them out there. So yeah, good episode. So I'm going to say one thing. I missed the very first minute of it because the streaming service that I was getting from the East Coast decided to just jack my computer hard, and my computer froze completely where I had to do a hard boot. Luckily, I was able to get it back online and working before I lost too much stuff there. So with that said, spoiler alert, I am going to spoil this episode. If you have not seen the episode, go and watch it. Come on back. This will be a video you can comment down below in the comment section. Thank you, Viking Bitch, for the paddle. And wow, yeah, I'm in denial that it's over with next week too, Baking 101. That is, I know it was the first minute of Charles on the plane. I got up to the point where where I came in was Charles was watching a simulated bullfight on a stage, and he's sitting in the theater as he's watching this guy dressed as a bullfighter stabbing this bull that looked like it was made out of rags with knives, and he's stabbing it pretty deep, and we see the bull going down onto the stage, and then we see the Shadow King, the fat Shadow King, sitting a couple seats over for him from Charles, telling him that he should never have come. And that's when he gets woken up by the flight attendant welcoming him to Morocco, because he's shown up in Morocco at this point. You should never have come. Exactly. And I'm telling you, people are going to be dissecting this freaking series for like a couple of years now, I think. Just, yeah, because of all the symbolism that's in it, Joker the Third. There's a lot of stuff in it. There's a lot of hidden meanings. Some stuff doesn't have any meaning whatsoever other than what it is. And yeah, it's art, not just for art's sake, but it's actually got story to this art as well. And it's just, again, like I said, either gonna really like it or you're really gonna hate it. There's no in between on this. No one's ever come away going, it's okay. I'd watch it again, but whatever. No, you either really love it or you really hate it. So we end up in the time hallway with David and Switch, and Switch is losing teeth again. And they're walking back. They're back about 5 years, and he says, they need it. Are we supposed to be this dizzy? Is what he asks. And he goes, all we need to do is just go back a little bit further. He goes, this is one thing. I'll never ask for anything again, is what he says. And then suddenly time becomes unstable, and we see things just start moving around really quickly, and David gets walled off into his own little section of the hallway. And he ends up going back to when he first met Farouk in the astral plane, when he met him out in that field with the little stand. And I'm wondering what that means of him going back to that. and meeting Farouk out in that stand. There was something there that just I don't know what it was, and I want to, there's something there. I don't know exactly what it is. And then he comes back again to the time hallway. So we end up in the time between time, and Farouk is trapped and surrounded by time eaters. And I'm wondering if Farouk has gotten the time eaters to work for him. We never really saw how he got out of that, other than that he is trapped there and surrounded by time eaters at one point in time. And we're seeing these time eaters actually hatch from eggs as well. So there's something weird that's there again that we don't know about. So Xavier arrives. He ends up being greeted at the airport by a man with an oil painting of him, and that the man explains that he is a subject and his king is waiting to meet him. And Xavier arrives at the palace. Time is skipping a little bit at the beginning. We see the man get out of the car, and then he's back in the car again, and he gets back out of the car. So the time eaters, yes, the time eaters hatch from eggs just like delusions. Exactly, Viking Mitch. I noticed that too. So there are some things that are tying together here. So he's invited inside, and there are all these children that are running around and they're playing. And Farouk comes up and greets him with kisses and joy and says, he knows everything about Charles. He knows about his family, and that he was a painter at one point, that he went to war, and just all this stuff. And, Charles is a little bit kind of apprehensive at first when he realizes that Farouk knows so much about him. But he doesn't, Charles has that trusty nature still where he wants to make friends. So he kind of glosses over it. So they go to dinner, and as they're eating, we see the painting on the wall that is off on the side of the room is where present day Farouk is being trapped in the time between time. And this, I never really, we really never really knew this, but the time between time is actually hanging in Farouk's wall. So yes. And yes, they are always blue. The blue meanies. So David's mom, in the meantime, is at home walking down the stairs when she sees those doors outside again. And then we see time rewind, and she goes back up at the top of the stairs again. And that's when we see Sid, Carrie, and Carrie come out of a time door near those doors. And she comes down and takes a look at the doors again, David's mom. And she asks if they moved the doors. And she goes, no, that wasn't us, is what Sid tells her. And she goes, well, you can see them, right? And she's like, yeah. She goes, so I'm not crazy. She goes, no, unless we are too, kind of thing. And then David starts crying. Baby David starts crying. So she runs inside to take care of him. And Sid follows her. And they have this conversation where David's mom is talking about that babies are insane, that everything they see, they only see what's in front of them and then it's gone. And this is what she's using as, rationalization that these babies are insane. And then, Sid says, well, then they grow up. Sometimes they grow up to become these men that burn very bright, even when you try and smother them, is what she says. And it's this weird conversation that's going on, this existential conversation. And, David's mom says, well, that's just because you don't matter. And she goes, well, what do you mean? And she goes, have you ever seen a mass grave? And she goes, no. She goes, it's just a pile of bodies, no names, no pasts, nothing. And so Sid asks them, what's the point? And she goes, well, even an animal will survive, will try to survive. It's just this very broken, very, very broken sense of logic that she has. Yes, Sid was abused, but definitely, but also this woman was, in a concentration camp. She saw a lot of shit going down. And David's mother, I'm talking about, so she is very broken as well. And so it's two broken people basically over the baby, and she's about to leave. Sid's like, well, I shouldn't even be here. And she's going to leave, and David's mom, of course, says, hush, hush, David. And she picks him up, and that's when Sid stops and goes, wait, did you just call him David? And that's when she realizes why they are there. Yeah. So Farouk and Charles have dinner, and he tells Farouk tells Charles that all the children are mute, which is kind of a weird thing. And he takes Charles into the astral plane for the first time, for Charles's first time. And he explains the land between time and space, a land of the mind. And it's anything you can imagine, you can build. And so we see Charles actually bring his family to life in there. He builds them in there. And Farouk abruptly brings him out of it again. And he says, you were looking for me. He goes, I was wandering the streets like a madman, yelling. No one was listening to me. And he goes, then you came looking for me, and I found you, and I realized I wasn't alone anymore, and neither were you. And Charles is like, I've never been alone. He goes, no, you have. You didn't realize this. You have seen me for the first time, and you is what he says. So this, honestly, to me, as I'm listening to this, it sounds like a scam that's going on. Maybe I've heard too many fast talkers and all that stuff. Yeah, it's just a weird thing. And yes, Joe, the blue meanies, that's exactly what the time eaters are based on, is the blue meanies from Yellow Submarine. They look exactly like that as well. Yeah, so it's a con man. It's a con game at this point, is what this guy is doing. And so he says it's a privilege to see and be seen, is what he says. And he's trying to put Charles at ease at this point. He's trying to lull him into a false sense of security, and you can see this, but he's doing it pretty well. And Charles is pretty much falling for this. So when Charles asks how he came to be like this, Farouk goes, oh, no, not after dinner. We'll talk. And then he ends up putting on a show for the children. He goes, the children love this. So it's a shadow puppet theater that's going on that Farouk is narrating, and he's narrating as in another language. And as he's doing this, at one point he turns to Charles and says, you never should have come. And yes, they call me the Shadow King, is what he says. And we that's why we find out the Shadow King with all those shadow puppets there. And at one point he looks at Charles and says, you never should have come. And then we see David briefly kind of flit into existence and says, behold, the king of lies. And that is something Lenny said in the first season about David. Behold, the king of lies. So there are a lot of parallels between David and Farouk again. And yes, David is trying to fix the time paradox again. And there's a lot of things that are cyclical in this, that really are. They're very, very cyclical and familiar about. And honestly, it's, I have a feeling that Noah's going to go back through and tie in all of season 1 into this, much in the same way that the 12 Monkeys was that last season. The last episode of the last season was tied into all the first season and everything else. I mean, this is, again, like I said, this is what you want in a TV show, when someone has this much detail put into place where they can actually think this all through, plan this all out, and have it pulled off pretty damn nicely. So Charles is looking around. We see that Charles is sleeping. He wakes up and he starts looking around, and he sees the monkey in the cage. There's this monkey that's been screaming. And Charles looks into the monkey's mind and sees a man is trapped there. A man is trapped in a prison and screaming to be let out. And he gets shocked for a second, And at this point, David opens up the time door and walks through and talks to Charles. And he says, who are you? He goes, you know who I am. And he goes, look into my mind, and it's open to you. And Charles looks into it and sees that it's his son and kind of freaks out for a second. But, David brings Charles into his mind so they can talk privately, because otherwise, Farouk can hear everything that's going on. And then David gives Charles a piece of cake and says, "Here, eat this." And Charles is like, "What is this?" And David says, "It's knowledge." And kind of like a video game in a way, where you eat something like the magic pill. The cake is a lie. Exactly, Robert. That's the first thing I thought of as well. The cake is a lie. And it's something that is very video game-ish. The fruit of knowledge, yes, that's the same thing that Apple. And it's interesting, he gains all of what happened to David in that moment. And yes, it is very biblical in a way. um so he ends up, Charles learns all of David's life, like I said, in a bite. David tells him that Farouk was looking for him all this time. It wasn't that you were looking for him. Farouk was looking for you, and he found you. And he tells Charles that he'll fight Farouk the next day. And yes, you'll win. You'll knock him out of his body, but you won't kill him. And he will slip right into my body, is what he says. Yes, he doesn't see what David did to Sid, though. Yeah, that's a little bit of something that was not put in there either. Exactly. But he says, "I'm your advantage, so I'm the way you're going to beat him," is what he says, because you never had me last time around. In the meantime, Carrie, she wants to kill baby David, kind of like killing baby Hitler. And Sid's like, no, we can't do that. She goes, remember I told you that Melanie and Oliver brought me up and raised me? And she's like, yeah, kind of. And she goes, well, they also told me that some people are too far gone to save. Adult David is too far gone to save. Baby David is not. Baby David we can actually save. So time glitches again, by the way, at this point. And Sid says that she'll stay, and Carrie doesn't have to stay. And Carrie looks over at Carrie sitting in the wheelchair, and she goes, yeah, I do. I have to stay. And we see time glitch again. And then we look down in the furnace area, and we see the time meters have eaten through the furnace. And they are coming at this point. The time meters have arrived. So Farouk is having breakfast when Charles walks in. He asks him how he slept and if you heard the thunder that last night and how glorious it was and all of this. When Charles says, I have someone I want you to meet, and David walks in. He says, this is an old war buddy of mine who was in town and I invited over. And when Farouk tries to enter David's mind to see who he is, he just sees the party at the compound, David's compound with, the blue room. And yeah, it was just kind of a weird, like, oh my God, and every time, Farouk says, sure, he can come in, he can sit down to breakfast with us and all this stuff. And David is playing it more like, I'll never turn out a free meal kind of thing. And he is playing with Farouk at this point. Every time Farouk tries to enter David's mind, he just hears the party and sees the party. That's all it is. He can't enter David's mind. And at one point, when he's asking questions verbally to David, and David is answering them, but then he's also, trying to enter his mind with his own mind, and it's getting blocked. And then at one point, David actually says, you should never have come here, is what he tells Farouk with his mind, which freaks Farouk the fuck out, right? And Farouk gets up and says, excuse me, I need to put myself back together again, and I will talk to you later. And he leaves. At this point, we see Switch kind of stumbling in, and teeth are falling and hitting the floor. And she walks in and collapses. And as she collapses, they switch the area that they were at. They're in a different room. And she says that she is now here with you, teacher. I don't know where she's taking them at this point, but David's freaking out because, of course, he's got Farouk at this point. He says, I've got him at this point. And Charles wants to know who this girl is. And David is like, she's nobody. She's just a means to an end. She is the only way to get here to you, is what it was, to get to this point. And Charles is appalled and says, no, she's a person, David. You need to understand that she is a person. And, David takes Charles into his mind again. And as they are talking, the doors are rattling. And he's like, "What is that?" He goes, "Never mind." And he goes, "Not now, not now." And David finally does the mean voice, the deep voice, "Not now." And the doors stop rattling, but he goes into a catatonic state. And one of the doors opens up and it's David. And as Charles is trying to check on the David sitting in the chair, the catatonic David, yes, David comes out and says, "Daddy, I'm here for you. You were never here for us. You left us. You put us in an orphanage. You abandoned us. You didn't teach us. You didn't protect us. We want revenge." And more of Davids are coming in and saying how they are there just for revenge at this point. And I don't know if they're there for revenge on Charles or if they're there for revenge on Farouk at this point. The lever. Yes, exactly as they call him. Not revenge, justice. Yeah. At one point they say, "We're here for justice." At first they say revenge, but then they say justice, which is what this is. And yeah. And if Charles had been there to actually teach David, yes, it would have set him right, but he wasn't there. He wasn't there to help him through it. And David's mom, in the meantime, is calling Charles to come home. We see that where she's calling on the phone, and Sid is taking care of David downstairs, baby David downstairs. She has him in the lap there, and we see Charles awaken again in his room, which is weird. And Sid asks, he's asking David's mom if he was a good baby, and she says, "Well, he seems to know things." And she goes, "Like what?" She goes, "About me." And then she says that her grandmother had the sickness. When she got older, and her mother got the sickness when she was 16. And Sid says, "The sickness, you mean mental illness?" She goes, "That's one way of calling it," is what she says. And she's wondering when it's going to hit her. And Sid realizes it's hereditary. David has a mental illness that's hereditary. And that's what's causing a lot of this at this point, which is, yeah. Yeah, didn't stop laughing for 14 days. I've had that before. No. Yeah, some really bad stuff at this point. So Sid basically tells her, "You know what your job is, you need to hold him and love him and don't let the monsters in." She goes, "We all have a job to do. We all have a part to play to keep the world from ending. Because otherwise, if you don't, the world is going to end. It's part of your responsibility now at this point." And she leans into Sid and says, "Are you real? Are you for real? I don't know if you're here or not." So she doesn't know if she is actually there. And Sid is really there, is what she says, because "I'm really here." And then they hear the Time Eaters laugh. And Sid craps her pants with good reason at this point. And, moves at this point. So Sid goes in and tells Carrie, she asks her if time is normal. And we see the lights start flickering, and she runs upstairs to go check on David, baby David. And at this point, Carrie is trying to wake up Carrie, and she's like, "Wake up, wake up. We need to get the hell out of here. The Time Eaters are here," kind of thing. And, as they start to attack, Carrie tries to, of course, slash one of them, and it doesn't work. And then we see that they're upstairs with David, and they're eating things inside the bedroom around David. They are eating furniture, then it starts with the walls. And then when there are no more walls, they're going for David. And that's when Sid brains one of them with the with the hammer, and everything goes back to normal again. And they grab the baby, and Sid's like, "We need to leave now. They know what the house is. We need to leave the house now." Yeah. And we also see more Time Eaters arrive in the basement out of the furnace. Yeah. So David gives Charles some more knowledge at this point. And we see Farouk hovering in midair. He's actually trying to heal himself or gain some more knowledge. We don't know exactly what. and Charles is creeping around the house looking. He sees Farouk hovering there. When the little girl, there's no children anywhere around, and one of the girls comes up. One little girl who's left grabs Charles and tugs on and says, "Can you make them stop? Can you make all the voices stop?" And he says, "What are you talking about?" And he looks into her head and he sees that her head is actually a prison for all. Can you make them stop screaming? Exactly, Viking bitch. And her head is a prison for all these minds that have been put in there. And I started to think, was she the blueprint for what has happened to David at this point? Was Farouk experimenting with her early on and experimenting for a while to see how many personalities he could jam into a head to make someone uh not just insane but also powerful as well? And he had enough time in David to do that. So yeah, and also he knows how to go through time and space as well. So maybe he went through all the different Davids and all the different timelines and crammed them all into David's head, making him who he is. So that was one of the things that I kind of got out of that. So Charles comes to David and tells me he's wrong. I was wrong about Farouk, is what he says. He's a monster, and he says he has to be stopped. And David tells him, you can't just stop him. You need to kill him. That's the only way to stop him. And he says, okay, how? And he goes, well, you're going to need my help. Otherwise, there's no way you're going to be able to do it on your own. And as they are joining forces, we see Farouk, present day Farouk, finally releases himself from the painting, from the time between time, and he winds up inside he's standing right in front of past Farouk that's floating, and he ends up telling Farouk, actually the past Farouk opens up his eyes and says, well, this is unexpected. And that's where we leave off on the episode. So we have basically 4 people with extreme mind powers, and there's going to be a battle royale going on now at this point. But the one thing is, David himself has multiple personalities in his head, multiple Davids. So it's actually an unfair fight at this point because David has got the Dax stacked on there. And yes, I love that effect in the time between time as well, Viking Bitch. It's really good. There's only one way it can end a rap battle. It's going to be a Bollywood dance-off is what it's going to be. It's going to be a Bollywood dance-off. Yeah. So yeah, damn fucking good episode. That's all I can say. I'm disappointed that this series is ending, but at the same time, I'm glad it's going out on its own pace, its own merit, and it's not wasting anything. iZombie, you guys could have taken a hint on that one. It's not wasting any of these episodes. It really is just pulling things together on this. I mean, really, it is. No, Applecry. I really don't think the Time Eaters are going to win. But I'm wondering if the Time Eaters are working for Farouk now at this point. I really wonder at this point. So, yeah. A breakdance battle, Robert M. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to do a breakdance battle. Like I said, I really hope there is at least one musical number, kind of like what we had in the war between Farouk and David at the beginning of. Was that the beginning or the end season 2? I can't remember now. Everything kind of blends together. But that just really awesome battle where they're singing and they're floating towards each other and they're having that war, and it just was awesome. Yeah. End of season 2. Thank you, Pen Farm Girl. Yeah, Behind Blue Eyes, when they're singing Behind Blue Eyes, and it's because of course everything is blue. And yeah, beautiful, beautiful episode. Joe says multiple personalities with powers. Try to fix your mind without going insane. David is always trying to gain control. Yeah, David is always trying to gain control. He is always trying to focus his powers, and he can't because of all the different voices that keep talking to him in his head, that have a different way of doing things. All I'm going to say is I just had a flashback from work. I'm working on a project right now where I have about 15,000 different voices telling me that, no, that's not the way to do it. And yeah, I finally said, screw it. Here it is. You guys deal with it and do whatever you want with it. Ryan Knox says, thought back to season 1 finale, Pink Floyd, Breathe, Lenny. Are you my phantom? Nice. What else do we have? David does not know any better. It takes Charles to set him right. True. But Charles, I don't know if Charles is going to learn anything out of this, or if Charles is going to get his mind wiped at the end of this, or what's going to happen. That's the other thing. We know that Charles comes out of this at some point in time because he has to, lead the X-Men. Unless it's one of the realities that it doesn't happen where the world gets destroyed. Yeah. The time meter in the furnace was a cool effect. Yeah, it was. Where you just kind of saw the face hovering there. It was like, yeah, that was really cool. I'd almost like a spin-off of Harry Lloyd looking for other mutants. That would be kind of cool, Apple Crow. Yeah, they're not going to do that, of course, because this is over with. Fox, Disney has been bought by Fox. They want to do their own X-Men stuff, and I hope to fucking God that they actually take Noah out of, in and have him do the X-Men. Quite honestly, because he's the only one I can see doing the X-Men any kind of justice at this point in time. Yeah. Dennis is now Legion. I am Legion. I always have been Legion. No one knows what it's like to be hated, to be fated, to be telling only lies. Exactly. Joe says, Dennis, the series is ending with a happy ending, like the one the owner of the Patriots did in the parlor. Oh, nice. Nice, Joe. All of David's other personalities seem worse. Are they, though? There might be some that are better that are just being held back. Yeah, if there's anything that we learned from Crazy Jane and Doom Patrol was that sometimes the nice personalities do not get to rise or get to speak at all. They do not rise to the surface. They get held back. So, as such happens in life as well. I have an interview tomorrow for a new job. Break a leg there, Apple Crow. Nice. Charles is going to be a good father to David, hopefully. John Apple says, Farouk brought the time eaters to them. He stole one of their eggs. That would be an interesting. I don't know if he stole one of their eggs or if he raised them, John Apple, and then basically corrupted them, because the time between time, it has no time. So he could do whatever he wants for however long he wanted to before he broke free. As he said, when he popped out of that painting, he said, that was an interesting journey that I went on. So obviously he was there for a while. He was covered in dust. He had been doing something in there. We don't know exactly what. Apple says, I was sort of expecting something similar to Legion Quest, where it ends with Legion accidentally killing Professor X. That would be interesting. Ryan Knox says, David absorbs the universe, all personalities trapped in his head, and ventures out into the multiverse of madness. That would actually be a very cool way of bringing in the Marvel universe. Yeah. Mutants into the Marvel universe, I should say, into the MCU. That would be very cool. Yeah. What a great message, though. Go back and give David the love and nurturing he always wanted. Exactly. Does Switch have some connection to Farouk? I don't know, Tom. That's a good question. He said he knew a time traveler once, and he called her. And that's what he said to Switch. So I don't think it's actually her. It might be someone else, maybe her mother. That could be it. Maybe he knows her mother, or maybe he knew her mother. Black Raspberry production. This is not going to go as you think. There is no happy ending when someone is known as the world end. The world ender. Yeah. So, true, but we never know what version we're going to get, though. Pen Farm Girl says, "Is she his daughter, Tom? And didn't he want her to bring David back? It is a trap after all." That could be. That could be. Yes, he was with her intimately, the time traveler. That's right. So maybe he's Switch's father. Maybe Switch's father. Huh. That would throw a whole twist in thing. But I mean, we only have one episode left. That would be kind of one of the weird. Well, I could see that happening with Noah pulling something like that out at the very last minute. Yeah. Yes, David does deserve love. His whole life has been tortured and manipulated. Deserves got nothing to do with it, as as Clint Eastwood said. So, you got to show love in order to get love, unfortunately, and he hasn't shown it. Quite honestly, he's used a lot of people. If Farouk doesn't die, I'll be disappointed. I don't think he's going to die, Ryan. Yeah. Aren't they going to go with this being the origin of a villain? Yeah, that's what I heard Apple Crow as well, that this is the origin of a villain. So obviously, I believe he's going to survive. The moment at the end of season 2 when David had the rock, that moment was intoxicating. Yeah. When they had basically both spent their powers so much that he just ended up going with the physical of grabbing a rock and he was going to smash Farouk's head in. And yes, that is, you get down to the base instincts at that point. Is he went from the sophisticated to the primitive at that point. Yeah. So damn good stuff. I can't wait for next week. Such a payoff to beat the shoes off of him, the smile, the pleasures. It's who is the black fat guy with the big chill? Is that the Farouk from the past? Why was he in the movie theater? Oh, that is just who he represents himself to be on the astral plane, John. That is him. He's a glutton. He's a glutton. He eats other personalities. He eats other psyche, and he feeds off of them to the point where he's a glutton. And that's what he's become. That is his persona on the astral plane. The whole point of last week's episode is babies need to be shown love first. Yeah, exactly. Or is he the Farouk from the past? Did he get absorbed in David's mind? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens next week. Yeah. So I am happy with what we're going with here, and this series is one of those series, like I said, doesn't come along often, if ever, quite honestly, and you'll never see its like ever again. Never ever. I mean, Doom Patrol comes close, but nowhere near as wacky as this thing is. And I have to give it to FX. They gave Noah carte blanche to do whatever the hell he wanted. He really did. They really did. And you could tell he's just going hog wild with it. And that's the nice thing about that. Like I said, we'll never see anything like this again unless someone owns their own TV station and their own streaming service or something like that. Yeah, you're never going to see anything like this again. Yeah, exactly. Doom Patrol is art as well. Penn, I would argue that Doom Patrol is art as well. There's some stuff in there that really is. It doesn't get as wacky as this. It doesn't get as existential as crazy as this, but it does have its moments. Yeah, it really does. Ah, it's going to be a long wait for the next thing from Noah. Same for the counterpart folks. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, Noah's got Lucy in the Sky that's coming out. Isn't it in fall? I believe is when it's coming out. I think that's when it is. So that'll be the next thing. But we don't know if he's going movie or TV. Well, he's also got Fargo, and then he's got the next season of Fargo that's coming out. So yeah, Joker the Third says FX has a nice record of TV programming which pushes the limits. Yes, they do. And yeah, we are lucky that we got to see Legion. So, what's Lucy in the Sky about, Ryan? It's about a astronaut. She comes back to Earth, and really she just wants to go back up there. And from what I'm seeing, I only saw the one trailer. John Hamm's in it, also Natalie Portman's in it. There's a couple other actors and Dan Stevens is actually in it as well, because Dan Stevens is Noah's boy at this point. So, and yeah, it's her kind of self-destructing her life, but also wanting to go back up into space. I don't know exactly. There's some existential stuff in that one as well. So I'll go and see it. I mean, it's got his name on it. I will go and see it. He wrote and directed it. That's me. I'll go and watch it when it comes out on in the theater there. Sounds kind of like Hal Jordan Earth One, kind of in a way. It makes me happy that truly weird shows are being allowed. The age to the weirdo is here. Who knows what will be next? Exactly. So whatever you think it is, it will probably be completely different. Exactly. Apple Crow says, I watched episode 1 of Preacher. Super excited to see some more of it. Just finished Future Man. Nice. A return to normalcy is inevitable. Yeah, it ebbs and flows. We have all kinds of stuff. So the only thing I can even think of that's as weird as this from the past is the Prisoner TV series. Yeah. Yeah, what'd you think of Future Man, Apple Crow? Now that you finished the first 2 seasons and waiting for the 3rd season to show up. Yeah, exactly. Pen Farm Girl. I almost called you Viking bitch. I don't know why. Yes, exactly. Pen Farm Girl. Lick the like button. I did. I think it was overhyped, but I did spam through it fast. Really? You thought it was overhyped? Yeah. I still love the James Cameron episode. Sorry, I think that's one of the best episodes. It just makes me laugh. That and also the virtual reality episode in season 2, the one with her going into virtual reality and finding out what it's all about with Stu. Yeah. All right. With that said, if you like what you see here, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Also, if you want to follow me, you can hit the bell down below and you get a 50-50 chance of getting notified by YouTube. If you're still on the fence about joining up, you're going to see a video pop up here at the end of this video. It's going to take a video from my vast video library based on the algorithms of all the stuff you've been watching. And up here will be another video, and it will be from last night's Preacher is what that'll be. Episodes 1 and 2. It's right there. If you want to know when I'm going to be on live again next with just by schedule, just go to suspendedfanimation.com. You'll see the schedule up there. It's also on Facebook. I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram, and I also have a Patreon page as well. And yes, we got one more Legion to go. Wednesday is going to be Krypton. Thursday is going to be The Boys. The Boys has moved over to Thursdays, and that's going to be episode 3. Friday, I'm off on Friday, but I am going to be doing a special, probably a 30-minute long thing where I'm going to pick a name for the winner of that Swamp Thing poster. Yeah, that's right. the Swamp Thing poster. And also on Thursday during the boys, at the beginning of the boys, I'm going to pick the winner for iZombie as well. So, because I had an iZombie contest that was going on as well. So I'm picking those two winners. And then, of course, they have 48 hours to tell me who they are, where they live, so I can send that stuff out to them. And of course, you also have until those days in order to get your comments into those videos to be entered in. There you go. No one I know in real life watches it, so it's good to find such a great community. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, like I said, there's I that's what I started this channel for, is I want to talk about stuff that I love, that I know other people love as well. And it's it's one of those things. It's like going to the comic book store like I used to back in the old days, and you're talking to people about your favorite shows, your favorite comics, your favorite books, all that kind of stuff. And you're not going to agree on everything. Honestly, you're not going to like everything, but it's good to have that conversation, to talk about things, to be exposed to other things, to say, hey, have you seen this? Have you watched that? Oh, I haven't heard of that. Let me check that out. That kind of stuff. That's what this is all about. No one's right or wrong at any of this. You like what you like. You don't like what you don't like. You're not going to sway people's opinions one way or the other, and that's what we're not here for. We're not here for that. So we're just here to talk about stuff that we like, and hopefully turn people on to other stuff too. Will you be doing Westworld season 3? Yes, I will. Yes, I will. I loved season 2. Season 2 was good. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I liked it. I dug it. So yes. Man in Black is so much like David. Kind of. Yeah. Yeah. I can get you there on that. Yeah. And commiserate when it gets canceled. Yeah, so if you don't know, Ryan, right now what goes on is if I love something that I cover, if I really love it and I'm covering it, it gets canceled. So you can blame me for Swamp Thing, because I started canceling. I was talking that thing up to begin with. I'm like, that looks like it's gonna be really good, blah blah blah, and I gushed on about it during the first episode. And right after that first episode, I mean, literally probably hours after that first episode or that I reviewed, that's when it got canceled. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, I can't really focus them. It's yeah, and Counterpart and The Tick. Yeah. And pretty much all the Marvel shows too that were on Netflix. Oh, that's not all my fault. I mean, I didn't like Iron Fist that much. And the Defenders, that was just dog shit. But yeah. So that was not my fault on that one. He's learning to fasten humans, master of the hallway of time. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of waiting to see what Justin Marks is going to come up with next. I know he mentioned something about that he's got something in the works. So Justin Marks, by the way, is the person who created Counterpart, but he is working on something else. Just don't tell anyone you like Firefly, Dennis. You can't see the Firefly. There's right there. There's actually, yeah, that's the old disc set, and that's the newer disc set right there. Yes. What's a Farscape? Sorry, that just never gets old. It really doesn't. Legion is holding back David's powers. Yeah, and I'm wondering if Charles is going to help him eradicate all those other personalities within his head, or at least quell them for them. Because I'm wondering if he did the same thing for the girl when she said, "Can you stop them from screaming?" And I think he did. I think he helped her stop them screaming. But yeah. he can help him like he helped Gabrielle. Yeah, maybe. Since it's going to be probably something similar to what she was facing. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, it's going to be bedtime for me too, Viking bitch. I think Pepper actually just split on me and's like, yeah, screw this. I'm going. She already left. So, with that said, thank you everybody who joined me in the chat tonight. It's been awesome. And thank you if you made it this far in the video. And like I said, take a look at everything, at the videos that I've got there. If you're on the fence, there's going to be a video at the end here. Take a look at that. And if you like that, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. And I will let you guys go for the evening. And I will see you on Wednesday for Krypton, you know. And with that said, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may find yourself standing out in a field with doors just sitting outside and wondering if those people who just came through the time door are real or not. Thanks, everybody. Good night.